So as I said earlier, welcome you servants of God. But I want to do a little experiment here. Anybody who's ever sat on one of the boards of the church, please stand up. Those who ever taught Sunday school, or cleaned the church, or went about serving in worship, please stand up. Missing anybody here? Was that? She's not, well, Rose has been here for at least 90 years that I'm aware of, so I'm sure she's done something to serve the church. Those who have ever participated in giving to the church, or done anything in which to bring God's people to church, we are all servants. Look around you, there's nobody sitting down. We've all done something to serve God. Now, this is the interesting part about it. Is how many here felt qualified to do what you were doing? Raise your hands. A few. That's good. How many have ever messed up big time even though they felt qualified? Serving is one of these odd things. And the story we hear this morning out of the gospel is that Jesus calls his first disciples. The people that are already serving God, following John the Baptist, but he calls them. And then you hear out of the Old Testament, Isaiah calling to the people to serve God, to be polished arrows. I love that vision. Polished arrow, something that's going to be sleek, it's going to hit the mark. You know, it doesn't have the rough edges. Who here feels like they've got a few rough edges and need to be polished? Right? Now, then you hear Paul talking about having all the spiritual gifts we need. Who here feels they got all the spiritual gifts they need in order to serve God? We feel left out. We feel like we're not quite complete. But here's the interesting part about it. I can't reach the top windows, but I have people that can. I got people who are good at organization, which is not my thing. I've got people who are good with money, people that are good with other people, that can sit and listen. I've got folks that know how to get this done or that done. As a body, we have all the gifts we need spiritually to serve God. Now, here comes the interesting part. How do we define this word serve? What does that mean? And how do we know that we're serving God and not our own self-interest? Anybody here ever really put their foot down and say, nope, that ain't going to happen here? I was going to say, I can see some faces that I know have put their foot down. I've heard them put their foot down. Right? Are we serving our interests or the interest of the congregation or the interest of God? And that's always a hard question to ask. A hard question to discern. What does this mean to serve? And who is it really for? Is it for me? To make myself feel better? I've done that, right? I feel lousy. I've done some things I really don't think I should have done. I know how I'll make it better. And that is a form of service. But if we're going to serve God, we need to start thinking about what that means. So the definition I've been given comes twofold. One, as you know, I was gone last weekend, and I had the wonderful opportunity to watch my son as he became a sergeant. And one of the things that they had to do, that he had to do, was in front of the entire unit, stand up and give the NCO creed, non-commissioned officer's creed. It was not what I expected. And he had it memorized, and he said it loud and proud. But the whole point of the creed was to say, I will put my desires, my needs, my wants aside. Because as a leader, what's important are the men that I lead, men and women. Unfortunately, it's an older creed, so they haven't quite changed that up yet. But to put all of me aside and to focus on the needs of the people that he was serving. Now think about that for a second. You know, in the service, there's been several songs that have mentioned this, but I know this to be true with him. He doesn't get to call in sick on Monday if he goes out on Sunday night. Holidays, if he's told, you're on guard duty, congratulations, he's on guard duty. The day after we left, he had taken 4 days of leave over there. The day after he left, because he was gone, he got a 24-hour guard duty shift. Now, personally, I think that's ridiculous. He wants to stay up for 24 hours, and his guard duty happened to be in his barracks, so he gets to sit in his little room at the front of the barracks and make sure nobody came in or went out that wasn't supposed to. For 24 hours. Okay? But he served and he did it, and he does it with a glad heart. Does he complain? Yep. Any of you ever complained serving church? Well, I got a couple honest ones in the back. This is the idea of putting others first. The other definition I've been given, and it was one my father got just recently from a leadership conference we went to. And I want you to listen carefully to this. To serve is to give of yourself, knowing full well that you're going to be taken advantage of. To serve is to give of yourself, knowing full well you will be taken advantage of. How many mothers do I have in the room? You ever stay up late nights knowing full well you were going to be taken advantage of the next day? How many loads of laundry have you done and not been thanked for? How many meals? Dads, how often have you tried to instill knowledge only to be told that you were completely and utterly foolish and knew nothing? Right? To serve is to give of yourself, knowing full well you're going to be taken advantage of. How many people here have heard of Jesus referred to as the servant king? Anybody? He came to serve us. He knew full well he was going to be taken advantage of. How many teenagers do I have in the room right now? Raise your hands. Right? God says, here's what I want you to do. You've got all the gifts you need for it. Do you gladly run towards that? You're preaching next Sunday, by the way. Oh, okay. Oh, I picked the teacher again. Do we gladly stand up and serve, or do we take advantage of what God has for us? Do we truly thank God both in the good times and the bad? To thank others for their service, for the way in which they've given. And do we expect that because we've done something, somebody's going to walk up and take our hand and, oh, you did such a wonderful job. Oh, you are just amazing. We cannot live without you. Please don't ever, ever, ever do something that would possibly make you leave. How many are looking for the pat on the back? You don't have to raise your hand. I already know the answer. It feels good to get that pat on the back. We don't like to be taken advantage of, right? How often, though, does God call us to be taken advantage of? To show that love in hopes that it might grow into something bigger and better. Levi, come here a second. I promise I won't hurt you. We've got a young man, right? He's got a lot of learning to do, doesn't he? You have a lot of learning to do, you think? How long before you're going to be as big as Pastor Bert? 18 years? I hope you don't get as grown as Pastor Bert for a lot longer than that. But he's going to have a lot of learning to do. Anybody here not willing to help him with that? Now, what happens if he starts making a lot of mistakes, though? What if he makes some bad choices along the way? What if he starts behaving in ways we don't behave in church? Now that never happens, right? Come back over here. He's cute and cuddly and fun, and you can pick him up and bend him in different ways and play with him. He's going to not be so cute and cuddly in 30 years. Right? You'll always be cute and cuddly to Mom. We'll have to see. With that drug dealer, with somebody's cute and cuddly one. That homeless person, with somebody's princess. The murderer, with somebody's son or daughter. The people who have made horrible choices. So I thought I'd talk to you about some of the servants that have given of themselves, knowing full well they were going to be taken advantage of. Let's start with Isaiah. Isaiah was a very learned individual. He took on the job of a prophet. Anybody here ever have to give somebody some advice that they knew they weren't going to want? Tell some poor teenager that life wasn't exactly the way they thought it was? How'd that go for you? Did they accept it with open arms and fall at your feet and talk about how wise you were? Or did they inform you of just how you don't understand today's world? Their world is so much different from ours when we were growing up, and they're right. But you hope to plant the seed there. Isaiah had it even better, because he had a lot of teenagers, learned individuals who he was preaching to, saying, you better change your ways or else. You know what happens to most prophets? Prophets weren't real liked individuals in the Bible. Their job was usually short-lived and painful. Isaiah was in no better shape. And then you've got the Apostle Paul. Paul was another learned individual. Great Jew. A wonderful Roman citizen. He persecuted people left and right that were Christians. Went out and had them tortured. Had a piece of paper that said he was more powerful than they were, so he could do this. And then he had a conversion. I don't know if many of you know what Paul's life was like. The man was flogged more times than we can shake a stick at. Spent more time in prison than he did out of prison. Most places he went, the people didn't like him. Had constantly begged the congregations to pay what they had promised. And then they would write him about things, and he'd have to write back and go, really? What are you thinking? Stop that. That's not what Jesus taught us. And beyond that, he had to stand up in front of them and admit to who he was prior in his life, so that others would know what Christ had done for him and how he had been transformed. How many of us want our children to know what we did as teenagers? How many of us are willing to come up here today and let the congregation know what Christ has done in your world and how He's changed and transformed you by letting us know what you've done wrong? Come forward. No? How many of you are willing to be flogged for what you believe publicly? No? Willing to go to prison because you came here today? No? Paul had a lot of gifts, but he used them for some very poor things. Isaiah had a lot of gifts, and he used them for great things. Neither one was very loved. Can you imagine how the Romans felt about Paul once he had his conversion? What about the Jewish families he had been a part of when he decided to go to those people, those Christians? And then he gets into the church. And did the church love him? Did they all welcome him with open arms? Or did they get upset with him? What do you think turned him in half the time? And then we've got Peter. Peter was an interesting individual. He was a fisherman. Fishermen weren't exactly the elite class in the times of Jesus. They very rarely dressed up. They usually reeked to the high heavens. They talked like they were out in the barn talking to cows. Rather vulgar. Probably didn't have the cleanest of jokes. And Jesus calls Peter. How gifted do you think Peter was at preaching? If I stood up and started telling jokes and speaking like I was out in the barn, how long would I be here? Not very long, right?
Depends how funny they are.
What's that? Depends on how funny they are. What if I spoke my mind and put my foot down and got stubborn about things and just told you folks what we were going to do? That was Peter. Opinionated, strong. He told people what was going to happen. And they did it. But you see time and time again how he didn't have that finesse that everybody's looking for out of leaders. Because a good leader, you know, is personable. Finds a way to get you to do things without hurting your feelings. Makes you feel good about yourself. Makes you want to go and do things. Inspires you. Helps lift you up when you're not feeling like, you've got everything you need. That's a good leader, isn't it? Isn't that how we speak about our leaders? Isn't that what you guys were looking for when you were looking through profiles? Somebody that was just going to love you, make those pains go away, feed you the message. That wasn't Peter. But this is the person who Jesus said he's going to build his church on. Doesn't sound like the person you would expect to be called. And we could keep going. There's David, an adulterer, a murderer, a liar. Right? Noah, a drunk. Moses, a murderer. Abraham, who goes around telling the king that his wife is his sister. Who almost sacrifices his own son. These are the people God called to be servants, to be polished arrows. But there's a reason. They were real life people, weren't they? Anybody here want to come back up front and let us know what you've done? Because those folks did. willing to take on the role of servant leader? To stand up and serve somebody, knowing full well you'll be taken advantage of. That's the difference between following Christ and being a good business leader. It's the difference between loving somebody unconditionally and forcing them to do something that should make them a better person. But anybody here ever been forced to do something and it didn't take? Right? How many here were teenagers? I rest my case. But to serve, to let God polish you, to take those gifts that you have and use them in ways that maybe you don't want to have them used. Maybe it's not what you want to do, but where God is calling you. Maybe the prayers we have need to change from, Lord, take this discomfort away from me, to, Lord, give me the strength to be a good leader. Lord, give me the strength to make it through this and be transformed. Lord, give me a heart that will let me love the way you love, and eyes to see the way you see. Because is this world going to change? Are there always going to be hardships? Are there always going to be things we can do nothing about? Are there always going to be bathrooms to clean? Messes to fix? People that need love that haven't shown any? Those will always be here. And each one of us is gifted. Now, you may not be the straightest arrow in the quiver. Maybe your arrow kind of goes like this. God's got a use for that. Maybe you're the comparison. I've never liked being the comparison, but guess what? It happens more often than not, right? I can remember many times going to AA meetings simply because I knew there'd be somebody there that had it worse off than I had, or had done worse things than I did, so I felt better walking out. And as a servant leader, you let those things about you shine. You let God polish up all your nooks and crannies. You become the light on top of the hill, even if your hill is only this high. You put the needs of others before your own. And you love in a way that only God can equip you to love. For you're all called. Whether you like it or not, you're sitting here. God's got a purpose. There's something you're being asked to do. You may not want to. How many people want to go to work tomorrow morning? I'd rather stay home and spend time with my kids. How many want to have to take care of the sick? Have to pay their taxes? You're excited about that one? I love you, Brenda, but I'm not sure how you got there. We're asked to be servant leaders. Take that on wholeheartedly. Let God take those parts of your life that need to be polished up and transform them. Answer the call, even when you don't want to. And watch the beautiful transformation that happens to yourself and those around you. Because even those of us who have done the smallest things in church have moved God's world ahead. that made it possible for somebody else to know their God a little better. So welcome all of God's servants. May you be blessed in your calling and what God has for you.